Mojtaba Khamenei. Nobody has seen him. No photograph, no video, no written statement to the Iranian public, no voice recording, nothing. The man who just became the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the single most powerful position in a country of 90 million people currently firing hypersonic missiles at American bases across the Middle East, has been completely invisible for 12 days. And the reason he is invisible is the reason he is dangerous in a way that Washington has not yet fully calculated. Mojtaba Khamenei was wounded on the opening day of Operation Epic Fury. The New York Times confirmed it, citing Israeli and Iranian officials. Iranian state television confirmed it themselves, describing him on air as Janbaz, the Persian word for a veteran wounded in battle. A government religious charity called Comité Emdad issued a formal statement calling him Janbaz Jang, a veteran wounded in war. Iran's own propaganda machine chose to announce his wound before announcing almost anything else about him. That is not an accident. That is a deliberate strategic communication decision. And understanding why they made that decision tells you everything about what kind of war Iran is now preparing to fight. Stay with me, because the man nobody has seen is about to become the most consequential figure in this conflict. And the fact that he is wounded, invisible, and already leading is not a sign of weakness. It is a signal of exactly the opposite. Let's establish who Mojtaba Khamenei actually is, because most Western coverage has reduced him to the sun and missed everything that matters. He is 56 years old. He is the second son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was assassinated in the joint American-Israeli strike on February 28, 2026. In that same strike, Mojtaba's mother was killed. His wife was killed. One of his sisters was killed. His father, the man who had led the Islamic Republic for 37 years, was killed. Mojtaba Khamenei lost his entire immediate family in a single American airstrike. And 8 days later, he was named Supreme Leader of Iran. Trump called the choice unacceptable, said he wanted to handpick Iran's next leader himself. Israel vowed to target whoever was named. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham said on the record that Mojtaba would meet the same fate as his father. Iran's Assembly of Experts named him anyway. 85% of the votes cast. The IRGC pledged allegiance within hours. The armed forces pledged allegiance within hours. And within 24 hours of the announcement, Iran launched a new wave of missiles, Khorramshahr, Fetah, Khaybar, in an operation they named Aliyan Wali Allah. The message was immediate and impossible to misread. The man you tried to preemptively disqualify just took power, and his first act was to fire missiles at you. Now let's talk about who this man actually is beneath the title, because his biography is a blueprint for the doctrine he is about to execute. For nearly 2 decades, Mojtaba Khamenei was described by U.S. diplomatic cables, published by WikiLeaks, as the power behind the robes. He never ran for office. He never gave public speeches. He never participated in public events. Many Iranians had never heard his voice, despite knowing for years that he was the most influential unelected figure in the Islamic Republic. He built his power base in silence, cultivating deep ties within the IRGC from the time he served in the Habib Battalion during operations in the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. His comrades from that war went on to run Iran's security and intelligence apparatus. He amassed what Bloomberg estimates to be billions of dollars in assets spread across multiple countries, none of it appearing under his own name. He operated through networks of insiders, proxies, and institutional leverage that the United States sanctioned him for in 2019, during Trump's first term, for advancing his father's destabilizing regional ambitions. This is not a religious figurehead elevated by circumstance. This is a political and intelligence operator who spent 30 years building covert institutional power specifically designed to survive external pressure. And now that operator is running a country at war, from an undisclosed location, while wounded. The fact that he has not appeared publicly in 12 days is being interpreted by some analysts as evidence of weakness. That interpretation is wrong. Here is what the invisibility actually signals. And this is the part that should concern every strategic planner in Washington and Jerusalem. Iranian officials told the New York Times that any public communication would reveal his location and endanger his life. Trump had explicitly stated he would support killing Mojtaba if he refused to comply with U.S. demands. Israel had vowed to target him. The decision to remain invisible is not weakness. It is operational security doctrine applied at the highest level of state authority. It means Iran's supreme leader is functioning like an underground resistance commander, not a head of state conducting ceremonies. That transition is massive in its strategic implications, because a head of state who needs to be visible to exercise authority is a head of state who can be targeted and neutralized. But a commander who operates through decentralized institutional networks, who issues orders without public appearances, who maintains authority through the loyalty of the IRGC rather than the legitimacy of public support, that is a fundamentally different problem. You cannot kill the idea. You cannot bomb the network. You cannot eliminate the authority by eliminating the person if the authority has already been distributed across 31 active command centers. And here is the biographical detail that makes Mojtaba Khamenei specifically dangerous in this configuration. Iranian state television didn't just announce him as wounded, they called him Janbaz of Ramadan, the wounded veteran of the Ramadan War. That specific framing is a deliberate reference to the Iran-Iraq War, which was referred to in Iran as the Sacred Defense, a war that Iran fought for 8 years against Saddam Hussein, absorbing enormous casualties, losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers, and ultimately ending without a decisive military victory for either side. Iran fought that war for 8 years. 8 years of total mobilization, economic devastation, and mass death. And the Islamic Republic framed every year of that war as sacred duty, as resistance that strengthened rather than weakened the regime's legitimacy. By calling Mojtaba the Janbaz of Ramadan, by explicitly connecting him to that sacred defense framework, Iranian state media is not describing a wounded man. They are constructing a narrative. The narrative says this: our new leader carries his wounds as credentials. He paid the price of this war with his body before he took power. He lost his father and mother and wife and sister on the same day America decided to launch its operation. He is not a bureaucrat inheriting a position. He is a war leader whose legitimacy is written in the blood of his own family. That narrative is extraordinarily powerful in the political culture of the Islamic Republic, and it is designed to answer the one question that threatened to delegitimize his appointment before it began. The question was this: appointing the son of the supreme leader to succeed. The supreme leader looks like a hereditary monarchy. Iran's 1979 revolution overthrew a hereditary monarchy. Members of the Assembly of Experts raised this objection before the vote. Some members of the clerical body weren't even informed of the meeting in time to attend. The religious credentials question remains unresolved. Mojtaba is a Hojjatul Islam, a mid-level cleric, not an Ayatollah. His father wasn't an Ayatollah when he took power in 1989 either. The law was amended to accommodate him. A similar compromise is being prepared for Mojtaba. But the deeper legitimacy question, the dynasty question, is being answered not through religious credentials, but through the wound. A man who bled for the revolution in the Ramadan War is not a prince inheriting a throne. Mojtaba Khamenei is a warrior assuming a command. That reframing, executed through state media in the first hours of his appointment, is sophisticated political communication. And Trump's response made it brilliant by accident. Trump said Mojtaba was unacceptable to him. Trump said he needed to be involved in the appointment. Iran's parliament speaker responded by saying the fate of Iran would be determined by the Iranian nation, not by, quote, Epstein's gang. The Assembly of Experts cited specifically that the candidate was chosen partly because he was hated by the enemy. The criterion for selection was being despised by America. Trump's public opposition to Mojtaba's appointment didn't weaken the case for naming him. It became the primary justification for naming him. Every statement from Washington declaring Mojtaba unacceptable added legitimacy points inside Iran. This is what happens when you try to conduct regime change through public statements against a political culture that defines itself by resistance to foreign interference. Now let's talk about what the doctrine actually looks like, because this is where the long game calculation comes into focus. Iranian ministers have reportedly told colleagues that regime change could take a year. That assessment, leaked to Western media, is being framed as pessimism about Iran's prospects. It is not pessimism, it is a timeline. A year of sustained conflict means a year of oil above $100. It means a year of Strait of Hormuz disruption. It means a year of European energy crisis, Gulf economic destabilization, and American domestic political pressure building toward midterm elections. It means a year of IRGC missile operations, depleting American interceptor stockpiles. It means a year of the Iranian population absorbing strikes and hardening around the narrative of sacred resistance rather than fragmenting into the regime change scenario Washington needs. Trump has said the operation could take 4 or 5 weeks. Iran is planning for a year. That gap between 4 weeks and 12 months is the strategic terrain where Mojtaba Khamenei is already operating. And his personal history suggests he understands that terrain better than almost anyone in the Iranian system. He spent 30 years building covert institutional networks precisely because he understood that Iran's survival in any confrontation with America required distributed authority that couldn't be decapitated. His father ran the Islamic Republic from a visible position, receiving visitors, making speeches, issuing public guidance. Mojtaba built his power in the shadows specifically so that it would survive the scenario that just occurred. His father is dead. His family is dead. The most powerful nation on earth declared him unacceptable before he took office, and he has not been seen in 12 days. But the missiles are still flying. The Strait of Hormuz is still effectively closed. 2 more vessels were hit on the morning of March 11th. Oil crossed $100 and is tracking toward $120. 7 American service members are dead. The IRGC is intact. 31 active command centers are operational. And a new leader whose wound is his credential and whose invisibility is his security is directing all of it from a location that American satellites and Israeli intelligence have not been able to confirm. There is one more dimension to this that hasn't been discussed anywhere in Western coverage. The opposition argument against Mojtaba was that his appointment creates a dynasty, a hereditary succession that contradicts the revolutionary principles of 1979. That argument has structural merit, but it operates on a peacetime logic that the war has suspended. In wartime Iran, with American bombs falling and the supreme leader freshly assassinated, the debate about hereditary succession versus revolutionary principle is overwhelmed by a simpler calculation. Who do the men with guns follow? The IRGC pledged allegiance within hours. The armed forces pledged allegiance within hours. Key hardline political leaders pledged allegiance within hours. Russia's Putin sent a letter pledging unwavering support. China stated it opposed any targeting of the new supreme leader. The institutional machinery of the Islamic Republic moved to Mojtaba Khamenei with a speed and unity that suggests the succession was not improvised. It was prepared. The man described for years as the power behind the robes had already been running significant portions of Iran's security apparatus before the war started. The transition from shadow power to formal authority was not a leap. It was a formalization. And now that formalization has occurred under conditions that make challenging it domestically nearly impossible, you don't stage an internal coup against a wounded war leader whose family was just killed by the enemy while missiles are still falling. The war that America launched to create regime change has instead created the conditions for the most consolidated Iranian leadership transition since 1989. That is not the outcome Operation Epic Fury was designed to produce. Trump said the war may only end once Iran's military and leaders have been wiped out. Defense Secretary Hegseth said America will set the terms of surrender. But surrender requires a government that wants to survive more than it wants to resist. Mojtaba Khamenei lost his father, his mother, his wife, and his sister in a single airstrike. He is wounded. He is invisible. He is leading from an undisclosed location while America threatens to kill him too. The question of whether that man is calculating surrender terms is a question that answers itself. The Assembly of Experts chose him because he is hated by the enemy. Trump's threats are not deterrent signals to this leader. They are legitimacy inputs. Every time Washington declares him unacceptable, Iran's internal political logic pulls harder toward him. Every strike that fails to find him adds to the mythology being constructed around the Janbaz of Ramadan. Every day he remains invisible and functional while American bombs fall is a demonstration that the Islamic Republic did not die with his father. This is not the leadership transition America was planning for. It is the one Iran spent 30 years quietly preparing. And the man at the center of it, wounded, invisible, and more dangerous for both, has not yet said a single public word. When he does speak, the world will listen, not because he is powerful, because everything that has happened since February 28th has been building toward the moment his voice is finally heard. Tell me in the comments, does Mojtaba's survival change the calculation for how long this war lasts? And share this video right now, because the invisible man running Iran is the most important figure in this conflict that nobody is covering correctly.